I was 14. It was an average night, around 9 p.m. Me and my little cousin are at his house. I'm babysitting for the night while my mom and aunt are shopping, and my dad and uncle are at the movie theater. So we're sitting there, and I was feeling really strange. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it, so I just kept watching TV with my cousin. The feeling wasn't going away, so I got up and walked to the back door to lock it. When I came back through the kitchen, I saw what was causing my weird feeling. In the window, there was a very decrepit and homeless-looking man. Just staring into the window, looking at my cousin. Protective mode turned on. I pretended like I didn't see the guy, and I told my little cousin that we needed to go upstairs because our parents would be home soon, and they wouldn't want him to be staying up late. So I went upstairs and put him to bed, knowing damn well that there was a man outside that wanted in. I was about 125 pounds and 5'8" at the time, and I played football for my school. If I remember correctly, I went downstairs and straight into the kitchen and grabbed one of those meat tenderizing hammers, turned back to the window where I saw him before. Not there. Ran back to the front door and checked that it was locked. Both the deadbolt and the knob were locked. Ran back upstairs with my meat tenderizer and went into my cousin's room and sat down in front of the door. He asked me what I was doing, and I said that he didn't need to worry about it and that he should keep his head low. Called the cops, and then my dad and uncle. Cops would take half an hour, and my dad and uncle were 45 minutes away. Then I hear a window shatter and the sound of heavy boots walking around on the main floor. I told my cousin to say, calm, hide under the covers, and to keep silent. I could hear the guy walking around downstairs. It was horrifying. I gripped that damn meat tenderizer and waited. About 5 minutes pass, and then I hear the boots walking upstairs. At this point, I was having a freaking heart attack. My cousin's door is no more than 10 feet from the stairs. I heard him opening the doors to my aunt and uncle's room, then the bathroom. He walked back downstairs, and I heard him open the door to the basement. 15 minutes later, the police showed up and burst into the house. Turned out the guy was loose from a mental hospital 1 province away. TLDR. I nearly had to battle a mental case when I was 14. At one point, I was no more than a wooden door and 10 feet away from him. I was living in a split-level duplex with my ex, 4 cats, and a foster black lab mix. The cats never went in the lower level, family room that I made an office, exercise room, bedroom, and laundry bathroom, and the dog hated being down there. I always had a feeling of being watched, but I chalked it up to there being windows at street level since it was a daylight basement. I had 2 weird experiences, but only the second one qualifies for Home Alone. I'll include the first for context. The first one, I figured it was just my imagination getting the best of me since I didn't like being downstairs. I was doing laundry with my headphones in. My ex was upstairs gaming and completely oblivious to anything going on around him. As I was putting my clothes into wash, I heard someone snapping their fingers in my ear like they were next to me and trying to get my attention. No one was there. For the second experience, my ex and half our animals were out of the house for the day visiting his family in nearby big city. I was downstairs printing off some coupons since it was the early aughts and I didn't have a smartphone. I heard the front door unlock, open and close, and heard feet on the landing. I called out, "Hey, you're back early!" Since, well, who else could it be? I walked to the bottom of the stairs, expecting to see my ex on the landing with a very excited dog and 2 very annoyed cats. But there was no one there. No one parked in the driveway, no one parked in the road, no one was home at the neighbors. The cats were upstairs and perfectly uninterested. I called my ex and he was still in big city and slightly freaked out when I told him what I heard. He raced back and we decided that if he left again, he should leave the dog since he seemed to be sensitive and would make me feel safer. I've never had auditory hallucinations before or since. Me and my older siblings staying at home. Small town in Ohio, with less people in it than my mom's graduating class of the city we came from. Sibling is grounded. Both the house's phone and their own phone are locked in my dad's gun safe, which neither of us had the combination to. Reason for being grounded is something silly and arbitrary. Can't remember quite why. Grandparents live down the street. Great-grandmother lives in a small house. They built her on the property so that she could be independent, but they would still be close by. My parents said that they were going to go check on my great-grandmother, as my grandparents were out of town that day, and then they would come back and we would order pizza. That sounded good enough to 7-year-old me and 15-year-old sibling. We played video games for a while, starting to get hungry and wonder when my parents would be back. After about 2 hours of them being gone, I heard a knock on the door. I went downstairs, pretty excited for the food, and my sibling followed a bit behind after saving the game. Walked up to the door, which had a large window in it, and not my parents. Very tall, lean, white guy with some short black hair and scruffy facial hair. 24, 25 years old. More jarring because everyone knew everyone in this small town, and I had no clue who this was. I held up my finger like 1 second and closed the curtain. I turned to see my siblings staring at the door in a bit of disbelief because they had seen the person too. In seconds, knocking turned to pounding, turned to shaking and rattling our doorknob. Terrified and with no way to call our parents, my sibling grabbed my hand and ran me into the kitchen. They grabbed a knife and I distinctly remember it breaking in their hand and them grabbing a different one. We hid in the laundry room and held each other, hearing banging, pounding, and about 5 minutes that felt like hours later, the front door opening. One thing about my sibling is they have always been ready to protect me at a moment's notice, and they were ready to jump up with their shitty kitchen knife and defend me the moment the dude was upon us. Instead, my mom rounded the corner, holding 2 pizza boxes, and wondering why her 2 kids were in a crumpled heap of tears on the floor. We both stood up and ran to tell her about the man outside, but we were met with laughter. My dad was outside talking to him. She said that he was asking about buying a broken-down car that had been in our driveway for a few months and was apparently a mechanic. My mom felt terrible, but found the situation a bit amusing. Apparently, she went out and told the man, and he said he felt bad for scaring us. We were given hugs and promised that the phones wouldn't be locked away while they were gone again, and spent the evening eating our pizza with choked sobs. But something still bothers me, even though it didn't as a child. Something that I just never thought about. Why would an adult grown man pound on the door like that, shake the handle, try his very damnedest to get into a house where either the parents weren't home or the youngest child had held up their finger like 1 second to go get their parent? Why would someone want to talk about a car that didn't have any sort of for sale sign on it so late at night? 9:10 p.m.? I'd like your opinion on if I was actually in danger that night, as my parents brushed it off so lightly. But something in my gut, being an adult now? That's not the way adults act. And I don't think that I would want to know what would have happened had my parents not come home when they did.